The highlights were both were very prepared. If you saw that first one, you could see Bailey was maybe a little bit more prepared than Pritzker, which was surprising to some. Bailey called Pritzker too extreme. Pritzker called Bailey too extreme, and Bailey said that Pritzker's too woke. So you got both sides of the coin. It was very fast-paced. There were a lot of interjections from Bailey. There was a shushing from the moderator, little fights. You could tell the types of issues that kind of made them upset. It was a good overview for voters who are maybe unsure, but it seems to be that there are just those two sides, far right, far left, and not a lot in the middle.
Great overview, and we're going to dig into some of those moments that you alluded to there, but burning question for me, folks. Anyone feel like they learned something new about either candidate at the debate? I'm looking at you, Jacoby and Ray.
No, I mean, they ended with appreciation, one for, marrying their high school sweetheart. The other, Bailey said, take me shoe shopping. And so they tried to find some way to give some props to the other one. But I didn't, right? Governor Pritzker has been invested in this message of Darren Bailey, both for months and months, but financially as well. He actually put money into showcasing to Illinois just how extreme he feels like he is. And so in many respects, both feel like they know who their opponent is. They've got their talking points ready, and they're going to stick pretty closely to the script.
Yeah. What do you think, Ray?
Well, Pritzker put in tens of millions of dollars to back Bailey's campaign so he could get the candidate that he wanted. So he's got the candidate he wanted. It's Pritzker's to lose right now. What I took out of the debate is that nobody really had a knockout punch. And so I would agree that the most illuminating thing was, that Darren Bailey actually realizes that he needs better suits.
Well, he's also just kind of tamping down his positions from the primary. I asked the governor a question after the debate about, are you seeing a primary Bailey and a general election Bailey? And you 100% are, because he does not want to talk about abortion. He does not want to talk about Trump.
That's true.
That's the thing that people probably learned at that debate.
So Pritzker portrayed Bailey as an extremist, as you mentioned, Tina. He called him a, quote, threat to democracy. He repeatedly tried to link Bailey to Trump. Let's just listen to one example.
I want to point out that Darren Bailey has surrounded himself with racist, misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic people and organizations, including chasing after the chief among them, Donald Trump.
So Bailey was asked repeatedly whether he would support Donald Trump if he ran for president. What did he say?
He basically said, we don't know who's running. I'm not going to comment on that.
Skated around that question.
That is not the same as what you saw a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was begging for that nomination on all fours practically at one point. Now it seems like he back on the fence, kind of biding his time. But as we said, that was always the strategy.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, Jacoby, that voters are actually swayed by these debates?
No, I think voters have made their minds up already.
Seems pretty late.
Yeah, I want people who maybe feel disillusioned by this process, who think, as Ray said, that Pritzker's got it in the bag. It's easy to turn away. But a lot of these efforts that Bailey and the far right are pushing for, they're both on the ballot and off the ballot. And so a lot of these measures are picking up steam, whether we're talking about anti-inclusive education or book bans or, still trying to roll back health care for women. And so, we got to pay attention to this race, but also recognize that what they believe in goes much further down the line.
Mm-hmm. And Ray, Darren Bailey also portrayed Governor Pritzker as an extremist. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Chicago is the nightmare called Pritzkerville, and it's still 2 weeks from Halloween.
That did not really do anything but hit with a thud. I didn't think it sounded anything more than something that he had practiced on and couldn't wait to get in.
Yeah. He thought he ate.
Yeah. I think what's also interesting here, to pick up on what Jacoby was saying, is that there is this line of belief in some of the polls, some of the national polls, that suggest that Republicans are now independents are now starting to lean toward Republicans, which is an interesting factor in other states. I don't think it'll be enough to create a wave for Bailey in Illinois, of course, but I do think that more people are starting to tune in.
Well, Darren Bailey is also trying to tie Pritzker to embattled former House Speaker Mike Madigan. he had new charges brought against him last week. Tell us how that's impacting Democrats right now.
Well, Democrats who love to take Madigan's cash and love to have his backing over the years are now acting like Madigan who? I mean, what is this? Who is this guy? But I didn't have anything to do with it, even though their bank accounts may say otherwise. And so they have to still deal with this Madigan baggage. Republicans believe that is an albatross that they can hang around the neck of any opponent and take some votes away from them. And because of the negative ads that are out there now, a lot of people think they can make hay out of it, and they're trying real hard.
Yeah, they just seem, Tina, to just have wildly different perspectives on the state of our state.
Bailey and Pritzker?
Yeah.
They do. But it's also, as an incumbent, Pritzker has to defend what he's done. It's pretty easy to hit an incumbent. There's always something you can point out that they've done
that
wrong.
They've missed. Yeah.
And that's something that Bailey did well during that debate, talking about veterans who died of COVID. I mean, everyone cares about that. That's a family member. So he was able to kind of get those good hits on an incumbent.
This is Reset. I'm Sasha-Ann Simons, and we are going behind the headlines on the weekly news recap with TIna Sfondeles of the Chicago Sun-Times, Ray Long of the Chicago Tribune, and Jacoby Cochran of CityCast Chicago. A reminder, you can watch us do this weekly news recap live on the WBEZ Facebook as well as the YouTube pages. You can also chat me in the chat box, and I might just read your questions or your comments on these stories on air. So sticking with you, Tina, the same day as the debate, Republican candidate Darren Bailey got his biggest campaign donation. From whom?
Mr. Dick Uihlein, his
of course.
best friend. He did get $2 million, and
a lot of money.
There was an email that went out before the debate saying that he was going to match dollars up to $2 million to Bailey supporters. So he's given about $4 million, I believe. I'm sorry. There's a super PAC that he's given $42 million to, and this year he's given $12 million total primary and general to Bailey. So he's been giving more money to the super PAC, which we are going to be stuck with for months because they will be running ads after the general election.
That's right.
About the mayoral election. We've already seen those. Lori Lightfoot is definitely getting hit by the super PAC. So we will see this for months to come.
Well, Dick Uihlein doesn't just give to Illinois candidates, right? He's spreading these donations across the country. So let's talk about that. The candidates he's choosing to support, they have something in common.
Yes, they do. So I did a story about that he gave more than $6 million to Republicans who did not vote to certify the election, and also separately election deniers. And so if you look at the numbers, it's about 9 of every $10 of money that he's given to congressional candidates fit into this category. I did reach out to his spokesperson. They were going to maybe say something, then they didn't. So I got a no comment. But if you just look at the numbers, you see.
What do the numbers suggest, Tina?
The numbers suggest that he supports election denying candidates.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised at all, Jacoby, by how many election denier candidates are on the ballot nationally?
No, not at all.
You got the Republican candidate for governor in Arizona, candidates running for Secretary of State in New Mexico, Arizona as well, Nevada. No surprises.
I'm not shocked. I think one thing that, was mentioned earlier is how people change from the primary to the general. But what the primary consistently showcases is there is a base for this information, this misinformation. There's a base who supports anti-vax rhetoric. There's a base who supports, that the election was stolen. There's a base for whom all of these fallacies they hit for, that this is what they get up for. They share this in their friend groups and their family groups. These are the discussions they'll be having at the holiday. And when you look at politicians as people who are playing the game, essentially, people aren't going to leave votes on the table. And if that requires radical views, then people are clearly willing to participate in them and then walk them back in some cases like Bailey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Ray, following up on all that, can you just shed some light for us on what Illinois Republicans are calling, quote, election integrity efforts? Yeah,
there's a lot of effort here by the GOP hierarchy, including Bailey and Don Tracy, the chair of the GOP party. What they're shooting for is to try to, make people believe that there are big amounts of fraud out there, that the fraud goes back to the days of the cemetery voting that we used to hear here in Chicago, and that it's still present. Well, Rick Pearson did a great story on that for us, and he quoted Matt Dietrich, the State Board of Elections spokesman, who's on top of this and a straight shooter, and he said there's no evidence of it. So the idea is to stir the pot and to create doubt. It comes out of the Trump Roger Stone playbook to try to talk about how we're winning when we're actually losing. And so this is just one more way they're trying to put people around the state who can watch the polls and who are under that same belief.